dreams just random images fired from an unconscious brain during sleep? Or something much more important, like life-saving inner guidance? How dreams can be healing and early warning tools for disease, financial crisis, or success. And love is still one of the behavioral science's greatest unanswered questions. Hello, I'm your host, author Kat O'Keefe Kanovos. Welcome to Dreaming Healing, where dreams and cutting-edge scientific research meet on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Dreaming Healing is every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern, with live shows on the first and third evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, when you can call in and ask Kat questions about your amazing dreams. Talk on air. Call toll-free 833-220-1200. That's 833-220-1200. Come live your dreams out loud with Kat.
Welcome to Dreaming Healing on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. I'm your host, Kathleen O'Keefe Kanovos, but my friends all call me Kat, so I hope you will too. Our show tonight is titled Quantum Spirituality and You. I know you're probably thinking, what? We're going to get into that because something has come back from the grave to which it was consigned 2,000 years ago. Yep. What exactly is quantum spirituality? Is it in any way connected to parallel universes? We're hearing about that more and more in movies, radio shows, TV shows. Might your dreams be one of those parallel universes? Well, our guest, an expert in the field of quantum spirituality, Peter Canova, says yes. And he will explain all that in detail. But first, we're going to do our clearing and protection meditation. For those of you who are only listening to our show, but would like to see our show, this is a video podcast. You can actually go to my website, KathleenO'KeefeKanovos.com, or you can just type into Google, The Queen of Dreams, and it will pull up my website. Go to my website, look up in the left-hand corner, there are these little black tabs or buttons. You'll see one that says radio show. Click that. It will take you to my website on Dream Vision Radio Network, Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, and you'll see a little TV with antennae on it. It's really cute. Just click that and you'll get to see us as well. And that page also has our guests' hot links on it. In other words, you can click all the hot links on that page and it will take you to websites, to books, to whatever I'm going to be talking about with our guest today. Okay, so for those of you who are new also, just follow my voice as I lead you through our clearing and protection meditation. We're going to take 3 deep breaths in. So settle deep into your chair. Feel your shoulders relaxing. Just kind of sink down. If you're driving in your car, listening to us on the radio, don't close your eyes. It'll still work, okay? It'll work really well. Just listen. The rest of you, close your eyes. Settle into your chair. And I want you to take 3 deep breaths in. We're going to take them one at a time. Deep breath in. Hold it. I want you to imagine any negativity that you may have encountered during the week. Caught in that breath of life and blow it out across the room into the purple flame of Saint Germain. See it being converted into beautiful golden light, going up through the universe, through the stars, up to heaven, making a U-turn and coming right back down into your chakras and through your body. Another deep breath in. Any negativity someone may have put on you this week, feel it connecting to that breath of life. Blow it out into the purple flame of Saint Germain. One more time, deep breath in. Any negativity that's been following you since you were a child gets caught in that breath of life. Blow it out into the purple flame of Saint Germain, where it's converted into beautiful golden light, returned to heaven, and returned back down to you. Now I want you to imagine a power gift in your hand. It can be your favorite flower, your favorite stone, your favorite book, anything that holds the power of love for you. I want you to swing it all around your body, creating a beautiful bubble of light, a mirrored bubble of light that only allows that which is of the highest and best to come into that bubble brought by your spirit guides and guardian angels. Everything else is reflected back from whence it came. We wish it so, and therefore it is. When you're ready, slowly open your eyes. And in the meantime, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our guest tonight. Peter Canova is an author and international businessman currently working on the Ritz-Carlton on Miami Beach, Florida. He's been researching early Christianity and other ancient spiritual traditions, as well as quantum physics and the nature of consciousness for more than 35 years. After a series of life-changing spiritual experiences, he began writing on spirituality and consciousness. He is the author of award-winning First Souls Trilogy, has contributed to the popular Chicken Soup for the Soul series, and he also hosts a podcast, Quantum Spirituality, on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. So, welcome to the show, Peter Canova.
Thank you, Kat. It's good to be with you today.
So for those of you listening and also watching us, I'm going to give you Peter's website so that during the commercial breaks, if you want to, you can go there and you can learn a little bit more about him. You can find him at petercanova.com, and you can also find him at innertraditions.com, author Peter Canova, and also the simonandschuster.com authors Peter Canova. And you can find those again on the Dreaming Healing website that is my website, my radio show website. It's live. You can click on it and go there. So Peter, in your current best-selling book, Quantum Spirituality, you explore the perennial principles of Gnosticism and explain how they describe major theories of quantum physics, such as the Big Bang, parallel universes, the holographic universe theory, and Einstein's relativity. And you reveal how to harness quantum spirituality for personal empowerment, access to higher levels of consciousness, and manifestation. So my first question to you is, what exactly has come back from a 2,000-year-old grave, and what is quantum spirituality and Gnosticism? How are they connected?
Well, Gnosticism was the original Christian, or I should really say Judeo-Christian mystical tradition, because the Kabbalah and Gnosticism are very closely connected, the Kabbalah being the Jewish mystical tradition and Gnosticism being a combination of actually Christian and pagan mystical thought. And the reason why I selected Gnosticism amongst other traditions to study, because they're all interrelated. If you go back in the ancient world, there were, as you called it, the perennial philosophy. There were common spiritual principles to all cultures. I mean, Hindu, Zoroastrian, Persian, Egyptian, Hermetic Egyptian, Jewish, Hellenic thought. There was a confluence of these of this mystical knowledge, and largely centered in the city of Alexandria, Egypt, because Alexandria became the melting pot between East and West for all these various traditions. And the incredible thing about Gnosticism was that it was probably the most scientific and predictive of all the disciplines that I studied. And I noticed, and I think I was perhaps the only one, or certainly among the first ones, to notice very specific predictions in the ancient Gnostic texts about that predated modern theories of quantum physics. So essentially, Gnosticism was this early form of Judeo-Christian mysticism that unfortunately was all but eradicated by the Orthodox Catholic Church of its day. And so much of it was lost. And the reason why it's come back from the grave in 2,000 years is that in 1945, some Egyptian brothers who were basically shuffling around caves looking for manure, which was for the crops, stumbled on these urns, and inside the urns were these ancient texts that had been hidden away. So it was a major discovery, and it really opened the world's eyes to Gnosticism, because prior to that, the only understanding we had about Gnosticism was through the writings of the Gnostics' enemies, the early church fathers. So we gained an entirely different perspective on this ancient tradition.
Wow, and your book is a gorgeous book. And it's got that all-seeing eye right smack in the middle, which I really love. So what made you decide to go from successful developer to author of Quantum Spirituality?
Well, as you mentioned in your introduction, many years ago, I went through a series of very vivid spiritual or psychic experiences, as you might call them, and I discovered that I was a very accurate medical intuitive, and then from there I went on to experience telemetry, clairaudience, clairvoyant episodes, all of which were, proven out in the so-called real world or material world. It wasn't just my imagination. And, this was quite surprising to me. And being a Capricorn, I, wasn't satisfied just with having the experiences. I wanted to understand the nuts and bolts behind it. So I started studying quantum physics, because I had observed that quantum physics is that one branch of science that pushes up against the same questions. It pushes up against metaphysics, the same questions that mystical traditions deal with, which is what is the nature of reality? How did the creation come about? And now, especially in the last 10 or 15 years, they're dealing with the whole issue of consciousness and what role consciousness plays in all of these things.
Interesting. That's so interesting. So could you hold your book up for us? The audience saw it from my end, but I'd like to have your face right next to your book with that all-seeing eye.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So let me ask you, is this your first book?
No. I have written a trilogy called the First Souls Trilogy. It's about the first souls to incarnate into material experience. And the trilogy traces their lives over different epochs of history, where they keep reappearing at critical junctures where humanity, is either going to take a leap forward or pretty much destroy itself. And the series did very well. It's won 25 national and international book awards, and I'm working with some partners now, and we're trying to get the first book, Pope Annalisa, about an African nun who becomes the first female pope, into a TV series.
Wow, that's quite a feat. First African nun who becomes pope. I mean,
Right.
How timely is that? That's amazing. So let me ask you, how do the ancient Gnostic teachings predict modern quantum physics? I know you wrote extensively about that in your book, and I wanted you to explain that a little bit to our audience. And by the way, audience, this book is not difficult to read. I know some of these theories seem very, very deep, but they're also great, like the universal bucket. He talks about parallel universes on page 156, which we're going to get into later with dreams. But yeah, if you could answer my question there, that I think that's a it's one that I think the audience would love to hear.
Well, there's a long version and a short version, and for the sake of time, let me give you the Writer's Digest version. It really relates to the fact that Gnosticism dealt with the whole idea of consciousness. And the premise of Gnosticism was that all life derived from a single consciousness. Now, that was in opposition to what I call the old science, which basically says that there were material causes of life, that somehow particles collided together and eventually, formed more complex organisms and so forth. However, there's no basis for that. That's never been proven. And in fact, it seems that it's almost impossible, an almost impossible model to understand or comprehend how the creation, how life came into existence. But essentially, the Gnostics said that there was one consciousness, and this one consciousness divided itself into different points of consciousness in order to give itself its own existence a context. And these different points of consciousness, which, you could liken it to the Christian version of angels or spiritual beings, they weren't people like you might think. They were essentially currents of energy. They were thought forms that represented different sort of archetypes. And the ancients named these, truth, wisdom, love, justice, and so forth, what we would today call archetypes. And they were actually dimensions. They were not people, but they were currents of energy that were vibrationally slightly different from each other, so that they formed different dimensions of existence. So that was your first instance of parallel universes right there. There was a Gnostic myth, which I won't get into deeply here because that would probably take up half the show. But essentially, they describe a fall of consciousness and into a more material type of vibration, a denser type of vibration. And they said in the text that this dense vibration couldn't coexist with a high spiritual vibration that was present in the original scheme of things, and that it was expelled in a violent upheaval and projected apart. Now, that's exactly a description of the Big Bang. That's how science tells us the Big Bang happened. Essentially, it exploded literally from some dimension that we don't really know into what we view as the material world today. So there was a pretty graphic description of the Big Bang. There also was the fact that we're going to talk. I assume you're going to touch on holographic universe, but the Gnostics essentially said that the universe or the creation operates almost kind of like a dream, where it's a projection of consciousness. That what we believe is solid and material really isn't. It's really kind of like a cosmic light show that is projected, and we have the experience kind of like, think of the old Star Trek series, where they had the holodeck and they'd go in there and they'd have all these cool experiences, but it was really a very real illusion. Essentially, that's what the Gnostics described the world as being, and that is very much like what science is looking at today as the holographic universe theory. So these are just a few superficial examples. I could give much more detailed and probably startling ones, but again, for the sake of time, I'll just limit to these.
Mm-hmm. So, you go into detail on these in your book. So those of you who are listening going, gosh, I want to hear more, I need to understand more, it's all right in here. Peter Canova explains everything in detail, and in a way you can really understand. So, one of the things about the Big Bang that I think that many of us are currently aware of is the Higgs boson. So I hope I said that right, where
what if dreams can diagnose your life? What if we can meet the love of our life in dreams? Join host Kat O'Keefe Kanovos, the #1 internationally best-selling author of Dreams That Can Save Your Life, written with Duke University medical doctor Larry Burke. Dreaming Healing is where we'll explore dreams, research, and interpret dreams from you, the caller. Dreaming Healing shows can be heard every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern, with live shows on the first and third evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Come live your dreams out loud with Kat.
Omega Institute, offering workshops, retreats, and online learning dedicated to awakening the best in the human spirit. For over 40 years, Omega has seen more than 1 million people come through its doors to grow, learn, and find a greater sense of purpose. Located in Rhinebeck, New York, just 90 miles north of New York City, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org or call 800-944-1001.
Why are we here? How can we be happy? Questions asked from millennials to boomers. Crappy to happy. Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy answers them using true stories of grit, grace, and love. James Redfield, author of The Celestine Prophecy, wrote in the foreword, "This book is a seminar about emerging truths and offers grounded solutions through the art of the comeback." Dr. Bernie Siegel, a contributing author, wrote, "Bodies die, but spirits and consciousness survive and recycle." So, grab some tissues, open your book, and prepare to cry and laugh till it heals. Crappy to Happy by Reverend Ariel Patricia and Kathleen O'Keefe Kanovos. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and booksellers worldwide. Darkest hours to brightest moments. Transformation from despair to happiness. And chaos to clarity. Real people, real pain, real healing. Life-threatening illness, death, abusive relationships, divorce, and overcoming addiction are challenges these men and women faced head-on. See how they emerged stronger and happier. Buy the new book, Chaos to Clarity, Sacred Stories of Transformational Change by Reverend Patricia Caginello and Kathleen O'Keefe Kanovos. Available on sacredstoriespublishing.com and worldwide through Amazon and other retailers.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Welcome back to Dreaming Healing on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. I'm your host, Kat Kanovos, and we are speaking with Peter Canova, the author of the brand new book, Quantum Spirituality. And just before the break, we were talking about Higgs boson and spirits coming into the earth plane. And so I want to ask Peter about how we can harness quantum spirituality. But actually, before I even do that, I want to go back to Peter, your holographic universe theory and how it relates to life. How did you touched on it? Did you want to add any more to that before we go into quantum spirituality for our personal development?
Well, as I said, the Gnostics and the ancients pictured the world as being kind of a dream projection, a thought form dream projection. So in the early 1980s, a French physicist named Alain Aspect discovered that subatomic particles can communicate with one another instantaneously over vast distances. So to use an analogy to understand that, it would be as if some version of you on Earth communicated with some version of you on Jupiter. If I pinched you, your version on Jupiter would say, if I pinched you on Earth, your version on Jupiter would say, ouch, at the exact same moment. So Einstein called this spooky action at a distance. And for many years, people wondered how this phenomenon that's also called quantum entanglement, how these particles are connected to one another like that, because there's no mechanical means that connects them. They don't have telephone wires connecting one another. Mm-hmm. So obviously there's something unseen going on there that is connecting these particles together. So along comes another famous physicist, David Bohm, who was a protege of Einstein. And Bohm essentially theorized that the world or reality operates as a hologram where everything is part of an interconnected something. Everything derives from the same source. So a characteristic about a hologram is that you can take any holographic object and slice it up, and each little sliver contains all the information of the whole. So if you really understand the universe that way, you can see how these particles can communicate with one another, because essentially they're really the same thing, with different appearances. So they're able to essentially mimic or reflect one another. And then there was a very interesting point in time where another physicist named Jacob Bekenstein, who was studying black holes, found that the information inside of a black hole, and when I say information, I have to explain that because, like so many things in quantum physics, it's very, very complex. So, my job is to try and break it down to be simple. But information is not like me talking to you. That's how people commonly think of information. Information in the quantum world is very different. Information literally is the stuff of subatomic particles that composes everything. So it's the if you think of information, it's the world is composed of all kinds of information that give it form and give it substance and give it shape and so forth. So when Bekenstein studied black holes, he found out that the information that makes up a black hole is not within the black hole itself. It's on the outside surface of the black hole called the event horizon. So let me give you another example to make that clear. It's as if you have a bucket, right? And let's say the Earth is in this giant bucket. Now you would think that all the information that makes the Earth what it is would be inside the bucket, inside the volume of the bucket. But what Bekenstein's study of black holes indicates is that's not the case at all, that the information that makes up the Earth in that bucket is actually on the outside of the bucket. It's on the outside skin or the surface of the bucket. And it projects inward to form kind of like a holographic picture of information that creates what you perceive inside the bucket, or let's say our three-dimensional world or our three-dimensional universe. So it's kind of like saying that what we view as 3D reality is really like a projection from somewhere else. So this was kind of the genesis of the holographic universe, and it's really very interesting. Again, it gets back to this sort of Star Trek kind of thing about are we really just a giant cosmic movie with information coming from somewhere that we don't readily perceive?
So for those, I'm actually doing this show from California, Palm Springs area, and so we are ringed by mountains, and occasionally we freeze because everything kind of bounces off the mountains. A little bit of quantum spirituality going on here. So we've been talking a lot about this holographic universe theory and Gnosticism and all this. So Peter, how can we harness quantum spirituality for our personal empowerment? How can we take all this information that you've been giving us and use it now, today?
Okay, well, the first thing I think you have to understand about quantum spirituality is that it's really a tool. And it's a tool for gaining knowledge about the operations of consciousness and the nature of reality. And what's interesting about this tool is that if you look at spirituality or religion, they're really largely based on faith. So you have a teacher or a preacher who will tell you things, and a lot of people sort of take that on faith, right? And these things could very well be true. But in the thing about quantum spirituality is it uses science as another bookend to faith. So when you see science and mysticism saying the same things, really, about consciousness, God, life, reality, the nature of the universe, it's hard knowledge that can really reinforce your belief in the fact that what we experience in this world is not the be all and end all of existence, that there is something else out there. So the first thing that quantum spirituality should do is really motivate people. with these two bookends of knowledge to say, hey, with everything that I'm sort of believing, there may be something there at the end of the rainbow. Now, how you then go ahead and use that? Well, if you take the book Quantum Spirituality, you're going to learn a lot of information and gain a lot of knowledge. But what you do with it at that point is really up to you. Because at the end of the day, and I always say this to people when I talk, I say, don't believe a damn thing I tell you, because I want you to be your own prophet. I want you to test these sources of information in your own experience. And that means that you need to take them in your own meditative practice and utilize them, but you'll be utilizing them with a great deal of knowledge. And the difference between faith and knowledge is just this. Someone can tell you that fire burns, right? And you take that in faith and you say, yeah, okay, but you really don't know it until you stick your hand in the fire. So quantum spirituality helps you to stick your hand in the fire and gain, I think, knowledge that will motivate you to understand that you can contact sources of higher consciousness. And when you do that, I guarantee you it's transformative in your life. I have learned information. In fact, I have to tell you, my whole trilogy that won the 25 awards, largely dictated by consciousness flowing through me. It was like, sometimes I feel like I didn't even write the book. I feel like somebody else wrote it. So there's so many ways that this can benefit you. But again, you got to put the work into it yourself.
Mm-hmm. So in a way you're saying, rather than belief versus science or reality, it's belief plus science and reality. When given a choice, take both. It kind of reminds me a little bit of a joke that a friend once told me, trust in Allah, but tie up your camel. Use both your belief and your trust and reality. Instead of choosing one over the other, use them both. And I think that's just really wise. So let me ask you something, Peter Canova. How are you able to take this really dense information and make it accessible to your readers in these books? Because it is very dense, it is very deep. How are you able to polish this and mold this so that your readers would understand, your average reader would understand what you're talking about? How did that happen?
Well, the simple answer is through a lot of analogies and graphics. I often find that it's very helpful to explain dense material in a pictorial form that people can relate to. A lot of people understand graphics and pictures as opposed to abstract concepts. And what we're trying to do is take a lot of thoughts here, which can be very abstract. I mean, you're talking about arcane ancient wisdom and quantum physics, which I guarantee you can make you tear your hair out, because I went through this. And I mean, I have years of study, so I can understand a lot of it. But I mean, it's much harder to relate this to people than to read the original materials and absorb them, yourself. So, really using a lot of analogies like we've used today, the bucket analogy for, the holographic universe theory, but combined with a lot of diagrams in there that explain things along with the narrative.
Yes. So, we've had a little bit of an introduction to it through our TV shows like Star Trek, where we had the different holographic playground that they had on their ship. And then we're actually moving more into that now with the type of games that we're able to play with, the gaming that we're using, where we are in a holographic world while we're doing different things, whether it's playing baseball or running or whatever it is. We're actually really, really moving into what you're talking about in your book. So those of you who are listening now going, no, this is too far out there. It's not. We're coming into it, and we're coming into it at a very high speed.
Well,
so
I think to emphasize what you're saying, all you have to do is look at a movie like The Matrix or the Matrix series. Okay. Philip Dick, who wrote Blade Runner, had Gnostic experiences. There's so many examples now that are coming out in popular culture that are based on Gnostic awareness and Gnostic consciousness. But I would say, the most obvious one that people may understand would be the Matrix trilogy. And that was directly Gnostic. The whole idea that we live in a matrix or simulated reality is really what the Gnostics were saying. And in fact, what, holographic universe and science is really indicating to us, that we live in a form of a simulated reality. Now, the difference with the Matrix is that it was machines that were running that, and I don't really subscribe to that theory. Although people like Elon Musk completely believe that we live in a simulated reality, and I think some people say, well, it's like we're almost like in some kind of a giant machine like the Matrix. I don't think it's a machine. I think it's an operation of consciousness at different levels. So it's an organic consciousness thing, not a mechanical thing. But still, the whole idea of a simulated reality is really becoming very much discussed in popular culture.
Yes, it's becoming very mainstream, and we're seeing it more and more. We have 1 minute before we need to go to break, and so when we come back, we're going to be discussing if quantum spirituality and universal oneness are connected, and then we're going to go into parallel universe and our dreams, because I think all of us dream. We all know dreams. We all have dreams. We're dreaming even if we don't remember them. So I think it's kind of important that we realize that quantum spirituality has a connection to our parallel universe of dreams. And maybe what our author Peter Canova was talking about a few minutes ago, where when we pinch ourselves on one universe, our waking universe, is our dreaming universe responding? And when we are pinched in our dreaming universe, does our waking, our sleeping universe, but this living universe, respond? And if the answer to that is yes, can we heal ourselves from that dreaming universe, parallel universe on the earth plane? Don't go away. We'll be right back. I'm your host, Kat Kanovos. We're talking to Peter Canova, and I know that was a heavy dish to carry, but we're going to come back and talk about it in just a few minutes.
What if dreams can diagnose your life? What if we can meet the love of our life in dreams? Join host Kat Kanovos, the #1 internationally best-selling author of Dreams That Can Save Your Life, written with Duke University medical doctor Larry Burke. Dreaming Healing is where we'll explore dreams, research, and interpret dreams from you, the caller. Dreaming Healing shows can be heard every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern, with live shows on the first and third evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Come live your dreams out loud with Kat.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times bestselling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, chaos to clarity, and crappy to happy, you'll love crying and laughing through mayhem to miracles. Sacred stories of transformational hope. Available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? What you say and how you say it can make or break a relationship or shift the outcome of any situation. Are your conversations making a difference? Faith in God, gratitude, authenticity, and giving are Teresa Velarde's heart. It's in this spirit that she's focused on making a difference in the lives she's blessed to touch. Conversations That Make a Difference is now on syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
In a world facing annihilation, a miraculous African nun rises to become the first female pope through a web of war, murder, and betrayal. Loved by some, hated by many, she becomes the deadly target of Islamic terrorists and her own cardinals as she introduces a new vision that will either save humanity or accelerate its destruction. 4 people must race against a nuclear holocaust to learn her astonishing secret. Pope Annalisa is available at petercanova.com, Amazon, and other online booksellers and bookstores worldwide.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Welcome back to Dreaming Healing. I'm your host, Kat Kanovos, and we're talking about quantum spirituality today. It's been a heavy show, but a fantastic, very deep show. And we're talking to author Peter Canova, who wrote the book, Quantum Spirituality, Science, Gnostic Mysticism, and Connecting with Source Consciousness. Yeah, that's the subtitle. But you know what? He was able to write this book for the average person as well. So don't be afraid to order it. It's already an Amazon bestseller. So you'll be joining a great group of people who have come to the conclusion that, you can read this book and be a better person for having done so. Who's running the projector? I mean, right here. It's an easy read. Believe it or not, it's an easy read, and it's going to answer a lot of questions you may have had here on the earth plane. So just before break, we were talking about a number of different things, including, the Matrix, the movie The Matrix, and artificial intelligence and all that stuff. So let's get back down to the earth plane here and talk about how quantum spirituality and universal oneness is connected. Do you want to take a stab at that one, Peter?
Well, that's a pretty easy one because universal oneness implies everything. So, consciousness, of course, and quantum spirituality is part of that, because as we said, that quantum spirituality, largely deals with the whole topic of the nature of consciousness and how consciousness is the source of everything. If it's the source of everything, that means oneness. Mm-hmm. So sure, they're completely connected.
Yeah, so those of you who are used to universal oneness, we hear it in our religions, we hear it in our churches, we hear it in our spiritual groups. Quantum spirituality is connected to universal oneness. So it's not like you're going out on some strange limb you've never been on before. There is a connection. So when you start reading this book, keep in mind the connection to universal oneness. So,
Kat, if I could for a second just say something to clarify that, in the Christian tradition, we were taught to believe in the fact that there's a separate God that created us. We're like these separate creations, okay? And there's kind of a gulf between us and God. He is the creator. He is the creator. It is the creator, whatever. We are the created. So the whole thing about consciousness and what the Gnostic said is, well, that's not true at all. The Gnostic said that we are an emanation or a projection of the essence of that very consciousness that is the source of everything. So we are not separated from our source. We are one with our source. Now, we may not understand that because we're existing in limited states of consciousness. Okay, if we didn't exist in limited states of consciousness, then we're right back up there with the source, right? I mean, we have to have something that distinguishes us from the source to have individual existence, and that means a limitation of consciousness. So, there is the connection, right there, given in sort of, terms that people could understand, versus religion and the understanding of consciousness as being everything, as opposed to us being separated from that source of consciousness.
Mm-hmm. So that consciousness that we're talking about, we can obtain that through prayers, meditations, and also dreams. Dreams are a little deeper because we're not always aware that we have connected through that consciousness through our dream unless we're lucid dreaming. But let's talk a little bit about parallel universes and our dreams as being part of that universe. Can you touch on that and tell us how you see that playing out with quantum spirituality? I know you touched on it a bit, like if you pinch yourself here, is your other self or that extension of yourself going to feel it on Jupiter? How could that happen in a parallel universe on a spiritual plane?
Well, I think that we have to understand, first of all, that we're multidimensional creatures. Okay, we exist. There's versions of us that exist at various levels of conscious vibration. So we're not just you, Kat, or me, Peter, and that's the sole sum of our experience. If you go behind that, you see that we are the product of a chain of consciousness where we have different experiences at different levels of reality. And those experiences are experienced in parallel dimensions of conscious vibration. Because you remember, I defined a dimension or a parallel universe as a dimension of consciousness. It's not a physical space that distinguishes a parallel dimension. It's a conscious state of vibration that distinguishes them. So we descend down to this reality through these different states of vibrational consciousness. So when we're dreaming, in a way, what we're doing is we are probably contacting higher versions of ourselves in these other dimensions of consciousness. So that's where I think the tie-in with dreams and parallel dimensions would come in.
So basically, when we're dreaming, although it's a vibrational consciousness that we're in, much like when we're in a state of prayer or meditation, we may consider it not to be physical until we're in it. When we're in it, in that dream level, it's just as physical to us when we're there as when we're here. When we're in that dream consciousness and we're in a restaurant, we can actually smell the food. We can feel the chair we're sitting in. We are listening and conversing with numerous people in there. So this vibrational consciousness has its own level of physicality depending on what level we're in. And that's where that quantum spirituality comes in. There's so much more to the dream world than just feeling good while we're asleep or having a nightmare. So why do you suppose we have a universal dream world?
Well,
do you think there's any reason for it?
I think, first of all, let me go back and say, yeah, you could sort of interpret it as levels of physicality, but I would really say more that when we dream, we're at different experiential levels. So in other words, in the dream, when I dream, I don't necessarily consider myself dreaming of another physicality. I dream of myself as having another experience. And that experience is just as real as the experience I'm having here, but it may be a non-physical experience, So, I mean, if I have a dream that I'm flying around mountains on my own, that's, yeah, you can get the sense of it being a physical experience, but what it really is just an alternate experience, okay? Whether you want to describe it as a physical sensation or, some other type of sensation, I sort of use the blanket terms. We're having an alternate experience. And I think that the idea of dreams is just a natural process, because like I say, we're not just these singular entities. We're the product of a chain of different people or different entities going through these different dimensions of consciousness. And in our dream state, we're just contacting ourselves in those different levels of consciousness. We're remembering the higher levels from which we came, from which we derived, and we're contacting ourselves, and we're getting information from ourselves in those dimensions. And I think that the function of dreams is simply maintaining that connection. And incidentally, when we dream, and you probably know this, we dreaming or meditative states entail different alterations in the brain. You have alpha, theta, delta waves. We have different wave states in our brains when we're having these experiences. So yes, there certainly is a physical connection there, just the way that we're spirits in material bodies. So we're having a material experience, but the vibration that animates us is energetic. It's non-material. So there's a commingling there in effect. So when we have these dreams of other dimensions, it will reflect in perceptible ways in brain waves and other physical manifestations.
Mm-hmm. And we can bring information back from this parallel universe, our dream universe,
Which
and
is
use
exactly
it.
what the Gnostics did. That's how the Gnostics were able to be so predictive of modern science, because they brought back this universal information from those states.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're down to our very last minute, Peter Canova. Thank you so much for being on this show with us today. Can you tell us where we can find you and your book in about 30 seconds?
Well, yeah, you can go to my website, petercanova.com. That's petercanova.com. And you can get a lot of information there about all my work, including quantum spirituality. But if you Google quantum spirituality, Peter Canova, you'll come up with various sites, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Simon Schuster, where you can get information on the book. We had a very successful launch, and the first edition already sold out. The next edition, the second edition, is coming out in, I believe, in April. I don't know if they have the pre-order sites up for that yet, but I believe it's still being sold. There's a few books left. They may be by third-party sellers, I don't know, on Amazon. But if not, if you can't find it, be patient. Probably in the course of the next couple of weeks, you'll, if you go back to those sites, you'll have the ability to either pre-order or order the second edition.
And also, Peter's foreword was written by James Redfield of the Celestine Prophecies. So thank you all for being with us this evening. And thank you again, Peter Canova. Good night, everybody. Remember, everybody dreams, but some dreams are another universe and can save your life.
Thank you for joining us this evening. And a big thanks to our producer. Tune in next time to Dreaming Healing for more cutting-edge research, live dream interpretations, and stories with radio host and award-winning author Kat O'Keefe Kanovos. Listen every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Time with call-in live shows on the first and third evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Remember, everyone dreams, but some dreams save lives. Live your dreams. Find more about Kat at KathleenO'KeefeKanovos.com. That's Kathleen with a K. OKEEFEKANAVOS. Or The Queen of Dreams on Google search.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.